Clap for Red Rose by Gary Ives, read by Gary Ives. We met, Gordon and I, in 1966 at Tiger Mountain Auxiliary Naval Communications Facility in the Republic of Viet Nam. Our station was situated in a cave the Seabees had dug into the mountain near the top where our antenna field stood. We had, with the help of a cargo handling battalion, hauled a shitload of generators, our transmitters and antennas, weapons, and a portable galley, and everything else needed for the 12 enlisted men and one ensign. We busted our asses working 16-hour days and built the facility to operational status in less than 3 short months. This effort was successful due to our chief, Chief Arnold, who it seemed could build anything, get anything, and fix everything. Because of him, we were a good crew, and a happy one. I was on the team that encrypted and decrypted messages, then relayed them to our ships out on the line, as well as to the swift boats and PBRs. Paul Gordon was our first-class engineman, who took care of the 2 5,000 kW generators. To all of us, Gordy was an old man. In the Navy for about 100 years, it seemed. He'd served on 7 ships of the line, and he'd requested Vietnam for his twilight cruise. After his year in country, he'd retire and head back to the Indian reservation in Minnesota where he'd grown up. He was intelligent, self-taught, but the beer and this odd, ultra-democratic attitude of his had kept him from making Chief Petty Officer, which bothered him not in the least. He loved to talk philosophy. Years ago, he'd melded the French Revolution's Declaration of the Rights of Man with the Communist Manifesto and with his Cree Indian beliefs. No label quite fit his beliefs, which included elements of Marxism, utopianism, socialism, pantheism, animism, and if such a word exists, cowboyism. He loved nature, and animals were equal to and some better than humans. As nice and friendly a person as you'd ever want to meet, still, he had this knack for trouble, especially with officers. The day our new ensign arrived for duty from Saigon, it fell to Gordy to pick him up at the airfield in Cameron Bay, as it was Gordy's day to make the fuel and water run in our deuce-and-a-half truck. Stepping down from the cab, Ensign Pascal looked like Napoleon. Proud, short, pudgy, with a receding hairline. Gordy had shut the engine off, hopped down, and headed to the cave for a cold beer when Ensign Pascal called him back. "Aren't you forgetting something, Petty Officer Gordon?" "What's that, sir?" "Well, for one thing, a good old-fashioned Navy salute, and I'd like you to take me to the chief." "Oh, why, sure, sir," he said, with a sloppy little graze to the forehead. "Hey, Banana, where's the chief?" he yelled at one of the seamen. "He's down at the Ville, Gordy." "Well, get your ass over here and unload Mr. Rascal's gear." "That's Pascal, Petty Officer Gordon, not Rascal. Ensign Pascal." "Right, sir. Get Ensign Pascal's gear to his quarters, then get them cases of beer down in the bug-out pit. Anything else, Mr. Pascal?" "I want to know as soon as the chief gets back." "Yes, sir." So right away he had antagonized our new officer in charge and branded the young officer with an unshakable moniker. Like it or not, he was Mr. Rascal, but only for a few hours. Then his permanent nickname would be Mr. Asshole. Dear Eric, as of today, I'm the new officer in charge of Tiger Mountain Auxiliary Naval Communication Facility in country. You ask how an ensign fresh out of OCS gets to be an officer in charge? I don't know. Whatever reason, it's damn good luck, I gotta tell you. I've got a lot of work to do. My crew is in rough shape. My chief wasn't on board when I arrived, and when he did show up, he'd been drinking at one of the whorehouses in the village. These sailors don't get it. You'd think the threat of disease would mean something to them. No, they're off to the damned village every chance they get. Have you heard of the Red Rose? Sometimes called Rosebud? It's some kind of wicked strain of gonorrhea over here that they haven't found a cure for. Get it, and they have to send you to some quarantine camp on Guam until you're cured. Some poor bastards have been there more than a year, I heard. The petty officer who picked me up wasn't even armed, and I asked him why he didn't have on a sidearm. He said, "Sidearm? I don't want to kill anybody. I just come to pick you up." The smart ass. I'll have that starch out of him soon enough. I learned one hell of a lot about leadership from that biography of Patton you sent me, and by God, I'll run a taut ship. My command is mostly located in a natural cave that the Seabees enlarged. But fortunately, my quarters are in a steel Connex box the chief had been living in. It's hot and it smells like cigarettes and beer, P.U., but thankfully, it's equipped with an air conditioner. Rank does have its privileges. The crew has hung a BOQ sign by the Connex door. Poor devils sleep in the cave next to our transmitters. Everyone says it's plenty safe here. There's been no enemy action on Tiger Mountain. Still, I don't trust any of these damn gooks. I sure as hell carry a sidearm. Give Mom a big hug and ask her to send those cookies she promised. Your brother, Ensign Winston Pascal, United States Naval Reserve Officer in Charge, U.S. Naval Communication Auxiliary Facility, Tiger Mountain, Republic of Viet Nam. After chow the next morning, Chief Arnold had everyone field day the cave and put on clean uniforms. At 9:30, the chief formed us up in ranks and then fetched the ensign from his little can. Only things missing were a monocle and a swagger stick. His helmet bore a freshly painted, oversized gold bar. Of course, we failed the inspection, and he rescheduled for 1600. And we failed that inspection, too. And he rescheduled another one for 2200, and we failed that, too. After that inspection, the chief went into the ensign's little steel box. I don't know what he said, but the inspections ended. From then on, Mr. Asshole pretty well stayed holed up in his can, except for morning quarters. The first time he did morning reports at quarters, he gives us all this talk about why we were here in Vietnam and the nature of the domino theory, blah, blah, blah. It was hot and everyone wanted to get back to work in the cool, comfortable cave. We had a shitload of traffic to relay. Nobody gave a flying fuck about his realpolitik bullshit until he started in about how, on his first day at Tiger Mountain, he had heard a petty officer here make the statement that he did not want to kill anyone. "Sailors," he said, "that's our main purpose here, in case you didn't know it, to kill communists." I saw the chief roll his eyes, and Gordy muttered something about "kill a commie for Christ." Then Ensign Pascal asked if there were any questions, and Furpo asked, "I thought our main purpose was to relay traffic, sir. I mean, we ain't going on patrol like the Marines or the doggies, are we?" "You're missing the big picture, Seaman. What's your name there?" "Seaman Furpo, sir. Randall Furpo. Does this mean we're going to start going on patrol? If we do, I want one of them M3s. Then Schlosser chimed in. "Mr. Pascal, if we're going to start patrols, I think the Navy ought to give us a corpsman. Right now, we got to go down off the mountain. Anything happens, like when Stevens broke his wrist. You reckon they'll give us a corpsman when we're on patrol?" "At present, there are no plans to go on patrol. That's not a concern at this moment. I just want to give you the idea of the big picture of why we're here, men. We're part of a larger effort. Chief Arnold, you may dismiss the men." The days rolled by, and Ensign Pascal seemed to do everything he could to fuck up the good routine we'd established. He made us fire the 2 girls from the village we'd hired to do our laundry and cleanup. He wouldn't eat with us, and made Willie, our cook, bring his meals to his air-conditioned can. Then he pissed everybody off royally by making us dig and build his own private officer's latrine. At morning quarters, he'd stand before us with his .45 in its holster and his helmet on his big round melon head, and every morning delivered a little lecture about the commies and his fucking big picture. To get his chop on the message boards, I had to knock 3 times on the door to his can and wait until he'd yell, "Enter." Then often as not, he'd say, "Put it down on the desk there and wait outside." The only things that made him happy were nightly movies and letters from home. He spent an awful lot of time in his can writing letters home. We used to speculate about the war stories he probably made up. At nights, we sat around a small fire outside the cave, drank beer, and shot the shit. On Friday nights, most of the talk was about the fuel and water run, which on Saturdays meant a 3-hour stop at the Ville, a compound of dirt floor bars and brothels. Most of the places in the Ville were Army, but one place, Madam Ben's, was exclusively Navy. Each Saturday, half the crew hopped in our deuce and a half, and we had a trip to the little Army PX, then time for jollies in the Ville, with Ba Mui Ba 33 beer, and taking our turns at a lovely romantic tryst with a sweet little Vietnamese or Cambodian on an army cot in a charming little cubicle behind the bar, petitioned off by hanging bed sheets. One night, Firpo said he'd like to kill a communist, and Gordy asked him why. Well, it's like Mr. Asshole was saying, if we don't kill them here, they could be in California or New York eventually. Besides, they want to kill us. I say bring them on. Shit, Firpo, the only good thing about being here in this little cave on Tiger Mountain is we don't have to worry much about Charlie. Mr. Asshole don't know how good he's got it. And for me, I don't want to kill nobody. And I don't give a shit whether they're commies or Martians or zombies from hell. You're telling me you wouldn't kill these bastards if we was attacked? Oh shit, of course all of us would defend ourselves, sure. But Asshole's big picture's a crock of shit. This whole war is a fuck story. It's an unholy, perverse celebration of propaganda and demagoguery. All these little people want to do is bring in their rice crop, screw their pretty little darlings, and play with their grandchildren. And most of all, to be left the fuck alone. They don't give a rat's ass for communism or democracy, and this stupid war is keeping them from their rice, their ladies, and their grandchildren. When this shit's all over and we're back home, the only thing they'll remember is how many innocent little people got zapped in the name of Mr. Asshole's big picture. Well, Gordy, I'd bag me a commie in a New York minute if I got the chance, and feel good about it, too. I believe you, young Firpo, I do. Then 5, 10, 15 years from now, if you grow up, you'd feel shitty about it, because I know you got a brain, and I know you got a heart, too, mate. Then I asked Gordy what he thought the solution to Mr. Asshole's big picture was. Best thing we could do is pull out, go home, and let these people settle out. Just quit like that? Shit, Gordy, the North Vietnamese would be down on these people like a hard rain. Yeah, just pack up and head back home. But sooner than you'd think, they'd sort it out. And whatever the North would do sure as hell couldn't be any worse than napalm, Agent Orange or Puff the Magic Dragon, or flechette bombs, landmines, or booby traps. If we quit, it'd be taking the fuel from the fire. It'd burn out in a week. The North would have big old prison camps and torture. And the Arvans and the Iraqs don't torture now. But then Charlie would win. Damn, Gordy, whose side you on? I ain't on anyone's side. I just think my big picture makes a whole lot more sense than Mr. Asshole's. What about freedom and democracy, Gordy? Hey, Gordy, you gonna join them hippie protesters when you get back, Firpo asked. Which is more important to you, Spence? Freedom and democracy, or your mom, your dad, your brothers, your land, your children's safety? If everyone thought the way you did, we'd never got our independence from England. Maybe we'd all be speaking German now. Way I see it, Gordy says, eventually England would have given us our independence anyway. How many English colonies are there now? And look, they got about the same freedoms as us. Anyway, this here is a civil war that us and the Russians and the Chinese have come in, taken over, using these little people as pawns. If the big countries had stayed the fuck out of the mix from the beginning, the Vietnamese would be planting rice and flowers instead of burying their dead and relocating. In the long run, people have to settle their political affairs their own way. What works in Minneapolis ain't going to work in Saigon or Hanoi. Democracy is way overrated. And freedom. Freedom is a wonderful ideal, but it only comes after full bellies and comfort. This war going to bring freedom to these people? You bring up Hitler. Well, your Hitlers, your Napoleons, your Attilas, they're like some recurring disease or plague. When people get too greedy, things get out of whack, Then they come along every once in a while. And then, yes, there has to be a war, sorry to say. Then you have a real cause for a war. Yeah, any son of a bitch like Hitler has to be taken out. But that ain't the case here. Old Uncle Ho up in Hanoi ain't no Hitler. Shit, the man's a poet, for Christ's sake. When this shit is all over, you wait and see who the heroes are. You think it's going to be General Abrams? General Westmoreland? General Key? Ha! Not fucking likely. How's about that fuckstick Henry Kissinger? Or the Prince of Darkness himself, McNamara? Gordy, you are one fucked up Indian, but I still love you. No matter what you say, I'd still kill me a commie every chance come. The next day was our Friday to make the village run. Me and Gordy and the rest of the section went down to have a sweet time at Madam Ben's. Before we left, I sent Furpo to ask the ensign if he wanted us to pick him up anything to drink at the Army's PX. Turns out Mr. Pascal's a Mormon and didn't drink, but he did ask Furpo to give him some Orange Crush and chewing gum. Well, we did have a jolly time and drank a shitload of beer. And Gordy cracked open a bottle of gin to enjoy in the truck on the way back up to Tiger Mountain. Just as it turned dark, our deuce and a half finished the slow, grinding climb up the mountain and rolled to a stop at the mouth of the cave. Ensign Pascal had heard the truck and came out of his can just as Gordy, trying to navigate over the tailgate, fell and flopped down, face up, laughing, hands grasping his gin bottle at the feet of Mr. Asshole. How utterly disgusting. Spencer, get the chief. I want this drunk written up. And you'll face punishment, you will. Gordon stood up, dusting off his pants, coughed for a moment, and then faced Ensign Pascal and said, "So what you going to do, sir? Send me to Viet Nam?" And laughed as he teetered off with his gin bottle. This was an all-shit situation. Chief Arnold tried to reason with the ensign. It was useless, and in the end, Gordy went to captain's mast for being drunk and disorderly, and that damn shitbird ensign with less than 6 months in the Navy, never been to sea son of a bitch, Mr. Asshole, busted him to second class. Chief tried to explain to Ensign Pascal that this was a big cut in Gordy's pay, and since Gordy would retire in 3 months, this would affect his retirement pay for the rest of his life. Well, Chief Arnold may be Petty Officer Gordon will reflect on this and mend his ways. Actually, I could be doing him a big favor. He just may stop drinking. I'll bet you didn't think of that. No, sir, I hadn't thought of that. Every man in the crew except Gordy was down. What kept him buoyed up was retirement. Gordy allowed how it was just money, and on the reservation he'd be okay. His big retirement plans were to repair the little house his mother had left him, to level the floors, put screen wire on the windows, bring in plumbing and electricity, and most importantly a pool table. My old shipmates and reservation buddies will always be welcome. We'll shoot pool, drink beer, won't be any working parties, won't have to get underway, no reveille, no inspections, and no shit from pup dog snot-nosed ensigns. Furpo said he still wanted to kill a commie, but he hoped the commie would kill Mr. Asshole first. And the chief told him not to talk that way. The day after Gordy went to captain's mast for punishment, little Jim, our electrician's mate, quietly did something which killed the little window unit air conditioner on the BOQ Connex box. The facility was protected by a 16-foot tall wooden tower with a roof platform encased by sandbags. A searchlight and a .50 caliber mount were fixed to the platform, and we stood watches from 8 at night till daylight up in the tower. Everyone but the chief and, of course, the ensign stood watch up there. The 4-hour watches were boring, but necessary. One night, soon after Gordy's captain's mast, one of our radiomen took a 12-inch piece of plastic conduit and a sock full of gravel on watch with him. Using the conduit like a pea shooter, he could bounce tiny rocks off the Connex box 30 feet away. By 2 o'clock in the morning, when the watch was really dragging, plinking the BOQ became great sport. Soon every watch section tried a hand at this, and someone even drew up a plinking schedule so that the disturbances would appear random. After the sabotage of the air conditioning unit, Ensign Pascal had to keep the box's door open and a fan going. But as he was deathly afraid of snakes, he kept the box shut up at night. The plinking would rouse him, and as soon as the watch heard his hinges of the box door grating, on would come the big searchlight, just as Mr. Asshole opened the connex. "Ahoy in the watchtower, what's going on? Turn that light off, you're blinding me." "Heard a noise over by your BOQ, sir. Probably them monkeys again." After a couple of weeks of night monkeys, he ordered the chief to have the trees around his BOQ cut down. After we cleared the trees out, the connex box lost all its shade. But somehow those pesky night monkeys returned. It got so hot in the BOQ, Mr. Asshole told the chief he was going to move into the cave with the enlisted men. Chief Arnold told him he thought that was against Navy regulations for officers to bunk with the men. "You're going to have to get permission from Saigon." I think it's got to be from a flag rank too, sir. You know, a request like that, asking to sleep in with the troops, that might look kind of funny, especially seeing how you got your own BOQ. Better think that one over, sir. Then we started with the cave snake stories. Evans and Dempsey went out snake hunting in the jungle and managed to kill a dozen, which they bagged and placed in the cave's reefer. Every other day, someone would drag out another dead snake he claimed to have killed someplace in the cave. Day after day, the heat wore him down. Every afternoon, he'd ask the chief the status of the request for the replacement air conditioner. "I was talking to the senior chief up from Canton in the Ville, and he said there's several pallets of air conditioners on a barge down there. I could catch a helo ride down there and try if you'd like." Yes, do it, Chief, please." This is how the chief got to fly down to Canton and spend a couple days with his younger brother, a Marine stationed there. But sadly, he came back empty-handed. "Sorry, sir. There was a barge, and there were 2 pallets of air conditioners. But don't you know Charlie sunk the barge with a mortar attack the night I got there. I'll keep trying, sir." We were halfway into the dry season, and it was hotter than hell. Dempsey and Evans kept the freezer stocked with throwdown snakes, and Mr. Asshole entered the cave only for his brief weekly inspection. The heat and loss of sleep were beginning to tell on him. He'd lost about 15 pounds. And with his balding head, he was beginning to get that Auschwitz look. Once a month, Commander Tripp, Mr. Asshole's boss, visited Tiger Mountain. "Damn, Winston, you look like shit. Are you sick?" "Well, sir, my air conditioning went out and we're having trouble getting replacement." "Geez, it's so hot and I can't get a good night's sleep on account of the heat and these damn night monkeys." "I'll see if I can't get help there. Get down to Cameron Bay and get a physical anyway." A few days later, a new air conditioning unit came in, which little Jim dutifully installed. The air conditioner was wonderful, and the steady drone of its motor and whoosh of cool air covered the night monkey noises. God was back in Mr. Asshole's Mormon heaven, and all was right at the BOQ. For a week, life was bearable. A few days later, Ensign Pascal headed down to sick bay at Cameron Bay for a complete physical. Seems like during his absence, a freak dry season electrical storm hit the mountain and knocked out the new air conditioner. The doctor told Ensign Pascal he probably had some kind of allergy, wrote a prescription for antihistamines, and told him he needed to drink more liquids and to come back in a week. Our parent command was the Naval Communication Station at Cameron Bay, and Dempsey, our yeoman, twice a week made the mail run there and handled any personal business. He had served aboard a destroyer escort with Eddie Phillips, one of the hospital corpsmen stationed at Cameron Bay. They were good shipmates, and for old time's sake and a case of wild turkey, for which we all chipped in, Phillips, the corpsman, constructed a duplicate health record for Ensign Pascal, in which Lieutenant Simmons, the examining doctor, notes were forged to include the statement, "tested positive for gonorrhea. 250 milligrams tetracycline twice daily prescribed. Patient exhibits mild delusion." The notes for the following week added, "Continued positive results for gonococcus. Delusional behavior persists. Patient boasts of sexual prowess, saying, So I've got the clap. Big deal. 500 milligrams tetracycline 3 times daily, referral to a psychiatrist. The next month, Mr. Asshole's allergies still a problem. He returned again for a checkup and refill of his antihistamines. The third forged entry reported continued positive results for gonococcus. Acute delusional behavior. Patient raves about heat, monkeys, and snakes. Recommend quarantine at Naval Air Station Agana, Guam until antibiotic-resistant gonococcus improved. Then 3-month observation at Naval Psychiatric Unit, St. Albans, New York. 2 days later, Lieutenant Simmons, the original examining doctor, was killed in a terrible helo crash on a medevac mission. Lieutenant Perkins, the new doctor, reviewed Ensign Pascal's record the morning of his next appointment. "Phillips, who's this Ensign Pascal?" "Oh, he's a nutcase, doctor. Loco. He's stationed up there at the Tiger Mountain facility. His troops say he's crazier than a bedbug. Stays shut up in a Connex box and rants and raves about monkeys and snakes all the time. He keeps coming in here with the clap. Reckon he can't stay out of the Ville. Doc Simmons thought it was red rose clap. Has him on mega doses of tetracycline. College educated, but too damn dumb to wear a rubber. Well, Phillips, we're too busy to waste any more time with this fruitcake. Get on the horn, tell Saigon we're shipping out another quarantine case to Guam. Tell them this one's wacko, and you probably need security." "Yes, sir, I'll get right on it." Later, under review requested by Chief Arnold, citing mental impairment of adjudicating authority, Gordy's captain's mast was thrown out, his rate and back pay restored. At the quarantine station in Guam, Ensign Winston Pascal, found to be free of the red rose gonococcus, resigned his commission and left the naval service to escape the rigors and stigma of military psychiatric evaluation.